traders. This is Blake Morrow. You are listening to the Morning Edge webinar. I want to welcome you all back, and we're going to get started on the majors. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go to the euro dollar, and we'll get started there. All right. So like I said, I deleted everything off of there on Friday because I wanted to take a look at the ascending wedge right into the trend line, which obviously we were looking at that daily trend line and it intersecting with the euro dollar, and if you can take a step back now, and obviously hindsight is always 20/20, but people that were ignoring that big yellow trend line and the ascending wedge, there's a price to pay for that, and that's obvious now. And so now the question is, how far are we going to go? And 108, like I said, that's my near-term target from just the flag perspective. But what we can do is we can take the low, okay, all the way to the high, and you can see we're in between fib levels. 108.44 is the 618. Also, you can see previous resistance. So, when you think about where the euro is at right now, and if it can get down to 108.40s or 108, we see it all the time. A lot of times these moves will overshoot. So we're gonna, see a move lower, maybe overshoot the 618, overshoot that previous support, and maybe stop and reverse. You know what I mean? So I think anywhere near the 108.50 to 108 level, you got to, consider, and I know I will be, considering covering shorts. So being, short the euro dollar right now, if we get towards 108.50, I'll probably be looking for the exits. I don't know if I'll stick out an order right at 108 per se. I probably will start looking for the exits around here because we'll have previous resistance that should act as support or thereabouts. Okay. Now also, what we can do is we can take from this low, just this last move up to the highs, and we did hit the 618 retracement, which is, obviously, whenever we hit a 618, that's a big deal. So, 108.85, I didn't actually realize that was there, and just until now. So, 108.85, you can see why today's low is probably very, very important for price. Okay, and why a lot of people are stepping in around here. So, what we will do is we'll write down today's low, 108.85 as key support. 1.0885. Okay. Now, where's resistance? Where is, if you're stuck on the long side of the euro dollar, where would you be happy getting out? Let's imagine you've been you're long the euro dollar. You've been long since last week. You watch the gap open over the weekend, at this, down at 110, and you watch it consolidate at 109.80 and then fall overnight. So where would you be thinking, man, I gotta get out of this damn thing? Because that's what I would be thinking is a place to either add or look for new shorts. So in my opinion, it'd probably be right here, okay? That spike low. You got all these spike highs up here. And that comes in at 110.02, really? Yeah, I guess it's at 110. Yeah, we have 110.10 over here, so 110. So if we get a move back up to 110, It's probably where our resistance is. We get back to 110, people that are long are probably going to be like, God, thank God we got back up here. Let me get out. Okay. We are in a range trading environment here with the euro dollar. And like I said, I expect somewhere near the 108 level to probably hold near term for maybe even for the week for the euro dollar. Let's go take a look at the cable. So the cable's under pressure today. I'm not really too sure why, other than, wait, hold on, let me double check that. We had CBI realized sales, which came in much stronger than had anticipated. Now this is a retail number. Basically, I think it's a retail inventory number is how a lot of people look at it. But the cable, I think, is just more of being under pressure after breaking down through some pretty key levels of support last week. But its downside seems fairly limited. But remember, we've also rallied quite a bit. So any type of pullback will probably be very well supported, especially as we come down here towards the 38% retracement. Now that comes in at 153.35. Let's get rid of this. So if we can get down to 153.35, that's probably going to be pretty key support for today for the cable. Now, resistance on rallies, yeah, we will probably struggle right through here because you can see the spike low, 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 highs can't get over there. And so that resistance comes in at 154.50. Low here, 154.55. Low here, 154.58. Spike low over here, 154.45. So yeah, 154.50 is going to be really tough for the cable to overcome. Okay. We were in a very bullish trend, and we're probably going to, it's a tough call. Probably have to just go back to range environment now after being bullish for the last few weeks. Okay, let's take a look at the Swissy. Here's the Swissy, and okay, so we had drawn out these 4 red lines, kind of we were boxed in there last week. You can remember we're through here, and we're like, okay, any rally back up towards, previous support here, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. We had, any dip down here towards support is going to be good, and we've really been boxed in there. Now we rallied to, and I'm going to go out to a 4-hour chart. What we've done is we've rallied back towards, just kind of overshot, but really all that previous support through here. Notice all these spikes. I mean, so these are just really, really big key levels. Now, what I want to do, I think at this stage in the game, let's delete everything. You get a fresh look at the Swissy. First of all, I'm going to redraw that line because that line I think is going to be pretty important. Okay. It's a big confluence of levels right through here. I mean, you see that downsloping trend line, horizontal trend line, 38% retracement, big rejection through here. So that resistance is very, very critical for the dollar Swiss. 95.20. That resistance right there, if we break through that resistance, that to me would suggest that the dollar is really ready to stage a more of a rally. I mean, because if the dollar can rally against the Swissy and break out against the Swissy, I would be very hesitant about being short the dollar. Okay. Now, any dip towards 94 is probably going to be very well supported because you can see it through here. $94.10, $94.03, $94.03, spike low, $94.01. So that's 94 cents. It's going to be pretty important support today. So like I said, if the Swissy breaks through 95.20, yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be on the short side of the dollar if that happens. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm just saying if it does, that to me would suggest that we're going to have another leg up in the dollar. Let's go over the yen. So the yen, obviously really strong. This breakout probably caught a lot of people off guard. Came out of that triangle, big move higher, got very oversold, or overbought, excuse me. Relative strength was very overbought over here. 127% extension comes in at 123. Yeah, it comes in at 123. The high overnight, 122.87. Might still be huge resistance at 123. But let me check something else really fast. Okay, we got 123, 123.50, but really it's 123. It's gonna be huge resistance. So if we have some strong U.S. data today and we can spike up to 123 in the dollar yen, I might actually fade it up there. I might actually fade that dollar yen if we can get it just a brief new highs, because the highs overnight was what 120, 122.88 or 122.87. So any brief new high, and I might actually reverse that dollar yen. Now, obviously, support down at 122 is going to be very well supported here. So high is 122.02 right there. 121.83, so 122 is going to be support. We're reasserting our bullish trend, and we've been in a bearish trend for, God knows how long. 7 months, 8 months. I mean, we're reasserting that bullish trend now. If the dollar yen, okay, let's talk about this really quick. So if the dollar yen, we have this breakout, right? Let's just say, because this would be this could be very much in line with everything that happened towards the beginning of last week. Let's say the US data today all comes in horrible, because the market right now is looking for a turn in US economic data. Everybody's like, okay, well, you got Janet Yellen, you got uh, uh, Vice Chairman Stanley Fisher. Everybody's talking about how the data is transitory. Well, just perhaps maybe the economic data starts getting better. I think people are, and traders are expecting better economic data to hit the wires. Well, how about if it's not today? How about if the data is all relatively weak? Does the dollar yen push back below 122? If it does, I'm going to be shorting the dollar yen today, especially if we close below 122, because what they'll end up being is just a false breakout. Okay. So that means the dollar yen just stopped out everybody above the highs and then reversed. So if the dollar, so again, this is all dependent on economic data, but if the data comes in worse than expected and the dollar yen reverses, okay, it's going to be a good setup for a reversal. And I'm going to be looking at shorting all the other yen pairs too. So it won't just be it won't be just the dollar yen. It might be the New Zealand yen as well, or maybe the Aussie yen. Okay. Okay. So anyway, let's take a look at the let's see here. It's bullish for now, but obviously we got to be on the lookout for a false breakout. Let's go over to the dollar Canadian. So the dollar Canadian's at its 50% retracement. You can see it right here. 50% retracement. All this previous support, that's current resistance. So today's high is going to be very important. 50% retracement at 123.75. Today's high is 123.73. So the high of 123.75 is, or the resistance will be at 123.75, and its key level of resistance. Okay, we are still very much in a range with the dollar Canadian. Now support. What's that spike high over here? 123.04. The high over here was 123.20. That's 123.10. Trying to figure out where support's going to be. It's probably be right here at 123. That was kind of like a shelf of support through here. Because there's a lot of people trying to short the Canadian here, because it's at it's a fib of its entire move. It's a 50% retracement level. Remember, from down here, we were at 120. I was targeting 123.50. I mean, we're here right now. Okay. There hasn't been any type of real rejection from there, other than we're just stalling here, but there hasn't been like a rally reversal, quick reversal with price. So if we would have hit 123.50 and just quickly reverse back down to 123, I'd be a little nervous. But all we're doing is we're just holding on to gains. So as long as we're above 123, Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the kiwi. So the kiwi, um, oh, we're pretty well off the lows. 72.64. That's going to be some support we're going to have to pay attention to. Let's get rid of this. Now, I drew through these lows from last week, but I don't know if this lower trend line's drawn correctly. I really don't. I drew through the wicks here, which I typically won't do. Um, but it's just because we were so well supported last week with price down here. That's the whole reason why I did it. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say with the kiwi. It's a tough read. I do think we're going lower. It's just, you know, see if you connect the wicks, trend line support will come in around 72, maybe a little higher than 72. Probably be like 72.10, 72.15. Um, so this is actually a really tough read. And what I'll do is I'll just mark the lows, which will be 72.65. It's not major support, just 72.65, just its overnight lows. Um, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll just mark these highs for now. You can see all these spike highs are just holding, and that comes in at 73.20. But not the support nor the resistance is really good. So it's not like I'm looking at that resistance going, oh, those are major resistance levels. And um, you know, I think we're trying to get a bearish breakdown, but I'm not really 100% convinced at this point. Okay. All right. So anyway, here's your bias chart. We'll do the Aussie and the dollar index when I come back. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, traders, this is Blake Morrow. You were listening to the Morning Edge webinar. We're going to finish up with the Aussie, and let's take a look at that really quick, and the dollar index too. We'll take a look at some of the other currencies like the peso and the Nordic currencies as well. So here's the Aussie dollar, very similar to the Kiwi in respect that as far as price action goes overnight, sell off, recovery, kind of hanging out. The Aussie dollar from last week though still has a flag pattern, and the flag pattern points to 76.30, I guess. Yeah, 76.30. 786 comes in below that. Now, if you look at the expectations here, you have this, flag pattern, right, that was setting up on Friday of last week, breakdown, So then our expectations are out towards the 786, and we've just been kind of grinding lower. Um, and you might recall from last week we have this uh, um, megaphone pattern, okay, that we are just grinding lower. And if we come through here, especially through this support, I would expect like some sell off to stabilize once you take out all the stops through here through that 786. It'll probably just spike down and then stabilize. So but we still have a lot of distance to travel on the Aussie dollar, but we did stop at the 618 retracement. So that's important, because what that means now is if the Aussie breaks through the 618 or the spike low from overnight, that's going to create some selling pressure, because if you think about it, that spike low, 77.70, okay, whoops, we had a spike low here at 77.85. Low here was 77.71. If we, think about how many people are getting long right now, the Aussie, with stops below that, below 77, you know, 770, blah, um, 77, 77.70. Okay, so that's going to be pretty key support for today. 0.7770 asterisk. A break below that is just going to trip some stops. It's going to just, because you think about that, everybody, how many people are trying to buy it down here, right? Now, resistance. So any rally back to this 78.60, probably see some sellers if we can get there. All right. Let's go over to the dollar index. So the dollar index, most important development about the dollar index is we're back above that broken trend line. So there's the broken trend line, descending wedge, breakout, and we're back above it. Okay. Now, if you zoom in, you'll see that previous support that's probably acting as current resistance. But what I would like to do, so the move back up towards 97.30 would be probably pretty strong resistance. That is the 618, so that's 97.30. 97.34 actually is what we have. Okay. All right, 97.35. Now, where would be support? Let's go back over to the hourly. Let's get rid of this. So right here, no, not what I wanted. So overnight, that was like like a pennant. Like a little wedge, broke higher. Um, Dead support will come in at 96.45. that should support. Well, the euro's getting a nice little lift here off the lows. It's not really pulling back anything else, though. It's really mostly just the euro. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of these other pairs. Then I'm going to answer some of your questions. Let's see if the peso's doing anything. The peso's holding up pretty well. Hmm. Probably a good way to look at the peso right now. Just on an hourly basis, nothing like super exciting here other than, we might get a rally back to 1540 if the dollar strengthens. Let's go over to the Norwegian krona. Okay, I remember we had that tight range we broke out on Friday above 760. That gave us a decent move to 770, but nothing like super exciting. Now that is important. Hold on. Let's go out to a 4-hour. Let's delete this stuff really quick. (127% extension). Decent rally back. Let's take a look at this downtrend line here, and this is what I think is really important. Because as long as we remain above these levels, which is let's just call it 760, 764, 765, as long as we remain above that, yeah, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would stand in front of that right now. But there's nothing like there's nothing significant that I'm like, oh, you got to watch this area for a pivot. I just think it's just in the middle of grinding higher. Let's go over to the Swedish krona. Swedish krona has a lot of work to do, in my opinion. Okay, so nothing too exciting there. I'm just going to leave your bias chart up right here and let me answer some of your questions. So going back to earlier questions,